this program is so vitally important. Call a friend in the middle of the program and tell them there's information you need. What about this atom?
Well, again, another secular source, U.S. News and World Report, December of '95, an article entitled "Genetic Eve Gets a Genetic Atom."
Oh my! Well, in fact, you're going to need them if you're going to populate.
Now
the
remember,
human
1988
race.
was the discovery of mitochondrial Eve. In other words, every human can trace their ancestry back to a particular woman. That's huge. Well, in '95, doing Y chromosome research through the male line, look what the scientists are saying, like this one at University of Arizona. We're finding that humans have very, very shallow genetic roots, which go back very recently to one ancestor.
Incredible.
If that's not what we've been saying all along, then I haven't been reading.
In the creation model.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that indicates that there was an origin in a specific location on the globe, and then it spread out from there. Well, then in 2000, that further confirmation of the biblical model.
Right.
In 2004, Nature magazine, in an article modeling the recent common ancestry of all living humans.
A recent common ancestry, back to one couple.
Exactly. Their quote is, the most recent common ancestor would have lived in the very recent past. Not the ancient past, but the very recent past. The MRCA, most recent common ancestor of humans, lived just a few thousand years ago, end quote.
That is totally contradictory to the evolutionary model, and these are mainstream evolutionary scientists who ignore the propaganda and just do good science in this area.
Exactly.
And many fine evolutionists are doing good science.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Well, in 2006, again expressed in Nature, and the popular publication I obtained it in was in a newspaper from San Antonio. All humans found to share a not-so-distant ancestor.
And, in fact, quoted in Nature, which is the world's most prestigious scientific journal.
That's right. And this man, Olson, Steve Olson, and others say researchers use math to deduce that we are all related somehow. New thought for some. And Olson and his colleagues have found that about 5,000 to 7,000 years ago, I don't know why they didn't
within the framework
6,000.
of 6,000-year tight chronology, biblical chronology, and creation model.
Everybody living today has exactly the same set of ancestors. Now, this is dynamite because, you know, we all have 2 biological parents. We have 4 grandparents. We have 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great, and it just keeps on doubling as we go back. Now, wait. If everyone did that, there would be more people in the beginning than there are now. Many times more, unless there was a convergence of those lines where we shared those common ancestors. And in fact, genetically, that's now confirmed.
That is now what they have confirmed, independently.
And essentially, that's what the Bible has been saying all along.
Now that you've stated that case, and evolutionary mainstream scholars have had to admit this in this area, let's crunch some numbers and see if the evolutionary model is substantiated.
Well, I actually did crunch the numbers. I used the human population growth formula obtained from a pre-calculus math book at Kilgore College, 4th edition by Carl J. Smith, page 200. Anyone could look it up. But here's several evolution scenarios. I took them at their own word, that Homo sapiens been around 500,000 years. And I started with 1 man and 1 woman. Now, we could have, and probably they think humans evolve simultaneously pretty much everywhere, but as you're going to see, they have
let's be kind to them.
Yes, they have a numbers problem, so I'm cutting this as much as I can.
Yes.
I'm taking their numbers from their publications here, and the growth rate is under 0.5 of 1%. Now, we know that to be verifiable through the data that we do have through the centuries. We can't go back very far, admittedly, but it does appear to be under 0.5% average annual growth rate.
Yes.
Worldwide, it's about 1.7, so this is certainly conservative. Even at that conservative rate, you would get that figure that we demonstrated earlier in the program, 2.45 times 10 to the 990th power. Clearly wrong.
I hope this audience understands. That is light years beyond the number of electrons in the universe, beyond the amount of space available for human bodies in the entire universe, light years beyond that possibility. So that's absolutely ridiculous, yet the evolutionary community holds on to that concept of deep roots.
Well, their editors need to crunch those numbers. If they're going to publish those dates, then they need to publish numbers that work.
Yes.
And we know the answer. that scenario is obviously not giving the answer. The answer is 6.5 billion.
So now, let's be a little kinder and
well, so I
give them more
maybe
squirming room.
Let me tweak their data a little bit for them, see if we can get it to work. So I said, well, what about 100,000 years? One man, one woman. I can't cut that figure any.
Right.
And I went 1/10 of 1%.
Oh, that's giving them a lot of slack.
Less than we have ever seen any century for which there's recorded data. Still, you get a number where you're going to have to move the decimal 43 places to the right. And that is obviously wrong. We're looking for 10 to the 9th power right there.
And you have 10 to the 43rd
10
power.
to the 43rd power
Not enough
of people.
space on planet Earth.
Not enough space, and certainly not what we know to be true through census.
Right.
And incidentally, if that were true, then where's all the bodies?
Oh, yes.
You couldn't till your garden without hitting skeletons. And so finally, evolution scenario 3, what if we just go 25,000 years ago?
I mean, be incredibly kind.
I don't think any of them would truly accept that. They'd push it back at least a little bit. But I said, well, let's just see what the independent computer calculator is going to give us, because we're just crunching numbers. There's no bias in a calculator of any kind. 2 plus 2 is 4 for anyone.
Yes.
So starting with that, one man, one woman, and an annual growth rate less than we've ever seen recorded, still gives 1.44 times 10 to the 11th power for the population. Now, some may be tempted to say, well, you got an 11.